Blood pooled on the kitchen floor, shattered wine bottle glittering like broken promises, and my own son's laughter echoed through the room like the final betrayal. They thought I'd stay down. Another forgotten old woman with a broken jaw and nowhere to go, but after 70 years of silent endurance, I'd learned to bury a different kind of strength. This time, I didn't fall to be forgotten. I rose to return everything they'd given me, with interest. My name is Margaret Hale, and I was 70 years old the night my daughter-in-law broke my jaw with a wine bottle, while my son watched and laughed. It started like any other evening in our small house in Millstone County. I was cleaning up after dinner, my hands still steady despite the arthritis that had crept into my joints over the years. Claire was at the kitchen island, her perfectly manicured nails tapping against her phone screen. Daniel sat at the table, papers spread before him, documents I'd later realize were about my house. "Mother, we need to talk," Daniel said, not looking up from the papers. The way he said mother had changed over the years. Once warm, now it carried the weight of obligation and resentment. I dried my hands on the dish towel, the same one I'd embroidered 40 years ago when Daniel was just a boy who still called me Mommy. "What is it, dear?" Claire's laugh was sharp as broken glass. She still doesn't get it. "Danny, your mother thinks she owns this place." "I do own this place," I said quietly. "Your father and I bought it in 1978. The deed is in my name." That's when Claire stood up, and I saw the wine bottle in her hand, not held casually, but gripped like a weapon. The Merlot inside sloshed dark as old blood. You selfish old bitch," she hissed. "We've taken care of you for 3 years. 3 years of your needs, your medications, your doctor's appointments. This house belongs to us now." I looked at my son, searching for the boy I'd raised, the one I'd sung to sleep and taught to tie his shoes. "Daniel?" He shrugged, still focused on those papers. "She's right, Mom. You can't live here alone anymore anyway. We found a nice facility for you. Sunshine Gardens. They specialize in difficult seniors." Difficult? The word tasted like ash in my mouth. Because I won't sign over my home? "Because you're ungrateful," Claire spat. "Because you sit here like some queen while we slave away, paying your bills, managing your life." "I pay my own bills," I said, my voice steady despite the tremor in my chest. "My pension, my Social Security." The bottle came so fast I barely saw it. Just the arc of Claire's arm, the glint of green glass in the kitchen light, and then an explosion of pain that started at my jaw and radiated through my entire skull. I heard the crack, bone giving way, before I felt it fully. I hit the floor hard, my hips screaming in protest. Blood filled my mouth, metallic and warm, through the haze of pain. I heard it. Daniel's laughter. Not shocked, not horrified, but genuinely amused. "Now you know how to serve, Mom," he said, finally looking at me. His eyes were cold as winter stones. "Maybe next time you'll remember your place in this house." Claire stood over me, the broken bottle neck still in her hand. "Clean yourself up. You're making a mess on my floor." My floor, I wanted to say, but my jaw wouldn't work right. The pain was extraordinary, unlike anything I'd felt since my time as an army nurse in Vietnam, but this was worse somehow. This was my child, my blood, standing there with that cruel smile while I bled on the kitchen tiles I'd scrubbed for 45 years. They left me there, just walked out of the kitchen, Claire's heels clicking against the hardwood, Daniel shuffling his papers. I heard them in the living room, discussing renovations they'd make once I was gone, new countertops, maybe knock out the wall between the kitchen and dining room. "Open concept," Claire said. "Modern." I lay there for what felt like hours but was probably only minutes. Blood pooling beneath my cheek, my jaw throbbing with each heartbeat. The old Margaret would have stayed down, would have accepted this as her fate, the dutiful mother, the silent woman who'd spent 70 years keeping peace, avoiding conflict, making herself small. But as I lay on that cold floor, something shifted inside me. Maybe it was the casual cruelty of it all, or the way they'd planned this so carefully. Maybe it was the realization that they'd been playing a long game, and I'd been too trusting to see it. With enormous effort, I rolled onto my side, then pushed myself up to sitting. The room spun, and I had to brace myself against the cabinet. More blood dripped onto the floor, my floor, in my house, that I'd paid for with 20 years of double shifts and scrimping and saving. I could hear them still talking, planning my erasure from my own life, but they'd made one crucial mistake. They thought I was just another helpless old woman, too weak and too afraid to fight back. They forgot I'd been a combat nurse. They forgot I'd held dying boys in my arms and still found the strength to save the next one. They forgot that before I was their mother, their servant, their problem to solve. I was Margaret Hale, and Margaret Hale had survived worse than this. The house was silent by the time I managed to stand. Daniel and Claire had gone to bed, confident in their victory. I could hear their muffled voices through the ceiling, planning, always planning. The kitchen clock showed 11:45 p.m. Every movement sent lightning through my jaw, but I forced myself to move. In the downstairs bathroom, I faced the mirror for the first time. The left side of my face was already swelling. Purple-black bruising spreading like spilled ink. My jaw hung at an unnatural angle. When I tried to open my mouth, the pain nearly brought me to my knees again. I grabbed a bag of frozen peas from the freezer, wrapped it in a thin towel, and pressed it against my face. I couldn't go to the hospital. They'd ask questions, file reports, and Daniel was smart enough to have a story ready. Confused old woman, dementia setting in. Fell down the stairs. I'd seen it happen to other women my age. Once you're labeled difficult or confused, every word you say becomes suspect. Instead, I did what I'd done in Da Nang when supplies were short and wounded kept coming. I improvised. I fashioned a makeshift support with ace bandages, took 4 ibuprofen from my hidden stash, the one Claire didn't know about, and settled at the kitchen table with a legal pad. My hands shook as I wrote, but my mind was clear, clearer than it had been in years. Actually, I documented everything, the time, the attack, the words they'd said, every detail while it was fresh. Pain is temporary, but evidence is forever, something I'd learned from my years of filing incident reports in the field hospitals. That's when I found them. The papers Daniel had been studying were still on the table, carelessly left behind. My hands trembled as I read through them. Power of attorney forms with my signature, except I'd never signed them. Deed transfer documents, bank account changes, all dated within the last month. All with my name signed in handwriting that looked like mine but wasn't. They'd been practicing. I photographed each document with my old flip phone, the one Claire mocked me for keeping. "Get a smartphone, Margaret," she'd say. "Join the 21st century." But my simple phone had one advantage. They didn't monitor it like they did the family computer. At 12:30 a.m., I sent a text to Olivia Marks. We'd served together in Vietnam, stayed friends through 5 decades and 3,000 miles. She'd become a lawyer after the war, specialized in elder law before retiring. The message was simple. Need help. Urgent. They hurt me. Her response came within minutes. Address coming now. I gave her the motel information, the Restwood Inn on Route 47. I'd kept a room there paid up for 3 months, ever since Claire started talking about nursing homes. Call it paranoia or call it preparation. But something in me had known this day would come. Packing was agony. Every movement jarred my jaw, sent fresh waves of pain through my skull. I took only essentials, medications they didn't know about, my VA papers, photo albums they'd never bothered to look through, and the small fireproof box I'd hidden in the basement behind paint cans from the 80s. The house keys were where I'd always kept them, but I noticed something new, a small camera tucked into the corner of the kitchen, barely visible unless you knew where to look. I stared at it for a long moment, wondering how long it had been there. Then I saw another one in the hallway. How many more were there? Had they been watching me all this time? At 1:15 a.m., I slipped out the back door. My car, a 20-year-old Honda that Daniel constantly told me to replace, started on the first try. Reliable. like everything else from the time before planned obsolescence. I drove carefully, my vision blurring occasionally from pain and exhaustion, until I reached the motel. The night clerk didn't comment on my face. Places like the Restwood Inn had seen worse. He just handed me the key to room 117, the one I'd been paying for in cash every month, insurance. I'd called it. Now it was salvation. The room was small, dated, but clean. I locked the door, put on the chain, and finally allowed myself to collapse on the bed. The pain was enormous now, radiating from my jaw through my entire body. But worse than the physical pain was the emotional wound. My son, my only child, had watched someone assault me and laughed. I must have dozed because I woke to gentle knocking. "Margaret, it's Olivia." She gasped when she saw me. 50 years of professional composure cracking. "Jesus Christ, Maggie, we're going to the hospital." "No, they'll document evidence of assault," she said firmly. "I've already called ahead, doctor. Patricia Reeves is waiting. She specializes in elder abuse cases. Trust me." As she helped me to her car, I clutched the box of documents. "They're trying to steal my house. Liv, my son. My son, let her do this to me." Olivia's face hardened in a way I remembered from the war. "Then we're going to nail them to the wall. Maggie. Every legal way possible." "I have camera footage," I said suddenly, remembering. "In the kitchen. Their camera, not mine. It would have recorded everything." She smiled then, cold and sharp. "Perfect. They just gave us the rope to hang them with." As we drove through the empty streets toward the hospital, I stared at my reflection in the side mirror, broken, bruised, but not beaten. They thought they'd won. They thought I'd disappear into whatever facility they'd chosen, sign whatever papers they put in front of me, fade away like a good, quiet victim. They were wrong, doctor. Reeves documented everything, photographs from 12 angles, x-rays showing the hairline fracture in my mandible, detailed notes about the pattern of bruising consistent with blunt force trauma. While nurses fitted me with a proper jaw stabilizer, Olivia sat beside me, reviewing every document I'd brought. "This signature," she said, holding up the power of attorney form. "When did they claim you signed it?" "March 15th, I managed through gritted teeth. "But I was at the VA hospital that entire week for my kidney infection. Have all the records." Olivia's eyes gleamed. "Medical records proving you were elsewhere. Perfect. And these deed transfer papers? Notice how they're notarized by the same person? Karen Wilkins. She works at Claire's real estate office." We spent the next 3 days building our case. Olivia's legal mind was still sharp as a scalpel, dissecting every document for irregularities. But the real breakthrough came when she dug into the house's original paperwork. "Margaret," she said, spreading papers across the motel's small table, "did you know your house has a veteran's property tax exemption that specifically protects it from forced sale or transfer without court approval?" I shook my head. Robert had handled all that when we bought the house, right after he came back from Korea. I'd been so focused on making it a home, I'd never paid attention to the legal details. "It's ironclad," Olivia continued. "Because Robert was a disabled veteran and you're his surviving spouse, the house has protected status. Any transfer requires a judge's approval after verifying you're of sound mind and acting freely. These forged documents, they're not just fraud, they're violation of federal veterans benefits law." That evening, she made calls, old contacts from her practice, investigators who specialized in elder abuse, a forensic document examiner who owed her a favor. By 9 p.m., we had appointments lined up for the next week. "Now," Olivia said, "about those cameras in your house. I counted at least 2, maybe more. If they installed them, they have the footage somewhere. Cloud storage, most likely." She pulled out her laptop. "What's Claire's email?" "How would that help?" "My granddaughter taught me something. Most people use the same password for everything, and Claire strikes me as the type to use something obvious." It took 6 tries. The password was their anniversary date plus Daniel's birth year. Suddenly, we were in... The cloud storage account was a gold mine. Weeks of footage, carefully labeled. They'd been documenting my every move, probably planning to edit it to show confusion or incompetence. But they'd kept everything, including that night. We watched it together in horrified silence. The assault was worse than I remembered. Claire's deliberate aim, the force of the blow, Daniel's immediate laughter. But what came after was even more damning. They'd returned to the kitchen 20 minutes later, Claire wearing gloves, carefully cleaning up blood while discussing how to spin the story. "She's getting unstable," Claire's recorded voice said. "We'll tell them she attacked me first. I had to defend myself." "The bruising's on the wrong side for that story," Daniel replied. "Then we say she fell. Confused old people fall all the time." Olivia downloaded everything, every file, every conversation, every moment of their calculated cruelty. The next morning brought another surprise. My phone rang at 7 a.m., an unknown number. "Grandma?" The voice was young, scared. "It's Emily." My granddaughter, 13 years old and caught in the middle of this nightmare. "Emily, sweetheart, are you okay?" "I saw what Mom did to you. I have more videos on my phone from before, things they said about putting you away." Emily: "I kept them because I knew something was wrong. They talk about you like you're already dead, Grandma, like you're just in the way." Her voice broke. "I'm scared to be here with them." Olivia took the phone. "Emily, this is Miss Marks, your grandmother's attorney. Can you send those videos to this number?" She rattled off a secure contact. "And is there somewhere safe you can go after school today?" "My friend Maya's house. Her mom already said I could stay if I needed to." "Good, do that. We'll handle the rest." After she hung up, I sat in stunned silence. My own granddaughter had been collecting evidence, knowing something was wrong but not knowing who to trust. "She's brave," Olivia said, "like her grandmother." That afternoon, we met with Detective Sarah Morrison from the Elder Abuse Task Force. She reviewed everything: medical records, forged documents, video evidence. Her expression grew darker with each piece of evidence. "This is one of the most clear-cut cases I've seen," she said. "Financial exploitation, assault, fraud, conspiracy. With your granddaughter's videos showing premeditation, we're looking at serious charges." "What happens now?" I asked. "Now we coordinate with the DA's office. But Mrs. Hale, I need to warn you, once we move forward, things will happen fast. They'll likely be arrested. Are you prepared for that?" I thought of Daniel as a baby, trusting and sweet in my arms. Then I thought of his laughter as I bled on the floor. "I'm prepared," I said. Olivia squeezed my hand. "We're going to need one more thing. That camera footage from the kitchen. If we can get a warrant for their devices, we can prove they have the original files, but it would be better if we could access it another way." That's when I remembered. The kitchen wall clock. It's one of those smart home devices Claire bought. She connected it to her phone to show the weather. If it has a camera... Olivia grinned. "Then it's transmitting to an app she controls, and we already have her password." Emily arrived at the motel at 4:30 p.m. the next day, Maya's mother dropping her off with a protective look that said she knew more than she was letting on. My granddaughter looked smaller than her 13 years, clutching a backpack like a lifeline. "Grandma," she whispered, her eyes filling when she saw my face. "I'm so sorry. I should have done something that night." "No, sweetheart, you're a child. This wasn't your responsibility." I pulled her into a careful hug, mindful of my jaw. "You're doing something now. That's what matters." Emily pulled out her phone with trembling hands. "I started recording them months ago, when they began talking about your house like it was already theirs." What she showed us made my blood run cold. Video after video of Daniel and Claire discussing their plans. They'd started small, mentions of how much the house was worth, how expensive my medications were, but over time, their conversations grew darker. "Once she's in Sunshine Gardens, we can start the renovation," Claire's voice said in one recording from January. "My sister says confused residents usually don't last more than a year there. Natural causes, you know." "Don't talk like that in front of Emily," Daniel warned. "She's in her room. Besides, she needs to understand how the world works. Sometimes old people are just burdens. Emily fast-forwarded to another clip. This one showed them practicing my signature, Claire coaching Daniel on the proper slant of my letters. "It has to be perfect," she said. "One mistake and the whole thing falls apart." "I know my mother's signature," Daniel snapped. "I've been forging it since high school." The admission hung in the air. Even Olivia looked shocked. "There's more," Emily said quietly. She showed us a text conversation between her parents from 3 days before the attack. Claire had written, "Tonight, after dinner, make sure E is in her room." Daniel's response, "Are you sure? What if she calls the police?" "She won't. Too proud, too confused. We'll have her in Sunshine Gardens by Monday." "Emily," Olivia said gently, "these are from your mother's phone. How did you—" "She uses the same password for everything," Emily said, an edge of her mother's sharpness in her voice, but directed toward justice instead of cruelty. "And she never checks her synchronized devices. I've been screenshotting everything from the family iPad for months." I stared at my granddaughter with new eyes. This quiet, bookish child had been running her own investigation, gathering evidence with the patience of a detective. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" I asked. Her face crumpled. "Who would believe me? Dad's a respected financial advisor. Mom sells houses to half the town. And I'm just a kid with anxiety issues who sees a therapist every week." She laughed bitterly. "They made sure of that, said I had trust issues and paranoid tendencies. Set the groundwork so no one would believe me if I ever spoke up." Olivia's expression turned murderous. "They gaslit their own daughter to protect their scheme." "There's something else," Emily said. She pulled out a USB drive. "The smart clock in the kitchen, it doesn't just show weather. It's a full security camera. Mom didn't know that when she bought it. She just liked that it matched her decor. But I read the manual. It's been recording everything for 6 months, uploading to a cloud server." "Can you access it?" Emily nodded. "Already did. I downloaded everything from the last month." She paused. "Grandma, they've been drugging you." "What?" "Your tea. Every night, Mom makes you chamomile tea. Right, I have video of her adding something to it. A powder from a prescription bottle. I looked it up. It's a sedative. Makes people confused, disoriented. Classic signs of dementia if you don't know what's causing it." The room spun, and not from my injury. How many nights had I felt unusually foggy? How many times had I struggled to remember things the next morning, worried that maybe I was losing my mind? "That's attempted murder," Olivia breathed. "Poisoning an elderly person to simulate dementia? Any prosecutor would—" "I took the bottle," Emily interrupted, pulling it from her backpack. "From Mom's bathroom cabinet. It has her name on it. Prescribed for anxiety, but she never takes it. She's been giving it to you instead." I had to sit down. The scope of their betrayal kept expanding, each revelation worse than the last. They hadn't just wanted my house. They'd been actively trying to destroy my mind, to make me question my own sanity. "Emily," I said when I could speak again, "what you've done is incredibly brave. But I need to know, are you safe? Do they suspect you?" She shook her head. "They think I'm too stupid to notice anything. Too wrapped up in my books and my anxiety to pay attention. They talk in front of me like I'm furniture." "Their mistake," Olivia said grimly. "Emily, would you be willing to speak with Detective Morrison? With your evidence. We can add attempted poisoning and child endangerment to the charges." "Child endangerment?" "They involved you in their criminal conspiracy, exposed you to their planning of elder abuse. That's psychological child abuse. Add in the gaslighting about your mental health." Olivia's smile was sharp. "Your parents are looking at serious prison time." Emily lifted her chin, and for a moment I saw myself at her age, scared but determined, backed into a corner but ready to fight. "I'll testify," she said. "I'll tell them everything." That night, while Emily slept on the motel's second bed, Olivia and I organized everything. The USB drive contained the smoking gun, clear video of the assault, the cleanup, the drugging, even conversations about finding a tame doctor who would declare me incompetent. "Margaret," Olivia said as we worked. "I've seen a lot of elder abuse cases. This is one of the worst, not just because of the violence, but the calculation, the psychological torture. They wanted to break you before they disposed of you." "They nearly succeeded," I admitted. "If Claire hadn't gotten impatient, if they'd kept drugging me for another month or two. But she did get impatient, and you fought back. And your granddaughter—" She glanced at Emily's sleeping form. "That girl is going to change the world someday. She has your steel in her spine." As dawn approached, I made a decision. I want to go public with this. Live. Not just criminal charges. I want everyone to know what they did. "Are you sure? It'll be ugly. Your name in the papers, people talking." I thought of all the other elderly people sitting in their homes right now, wondering if their children's impatience was normal, if their growing confusion was natural aging or something more sinister. "Let them talk," I said. "If it saves even one person from going through this, it's worth it." Olivia squeezed my hand. "Then we'd better call Rebecca Chen. She runs that elder justice blog that went viral last year. She'd be very interested in a story like this." "No one with Chen in their name," I said firmly. "Just no, a feeling." Olivia laughed. "All right, then we'll call Marcus Thompson from the local paper. He's been investigating elder abuse in care facilities. This would fit right into his series." As the sun rose over the Restwood Inn, I looked at the evidence spread before us. My son and his wife had thought they were so clever, so careful. They'd planned for everything except two things: my refusal to break and my granddaughter's courage. They were about to learn that Hale women, whatever their age, were far stronger than they appeared. Marcus Thompson arrived at the motel at 9 a.m. sharp, digital recorder in hand, and righteous anger already brewing in his eyes as he took in my bruised face. The 40-something journalist had made a name for himself exposing corruption in nursing homes. This was right in his wheelhouse. "Mrs. Hale," he said after I'd told him everything, shown him the evidence. I've covered elder abuse for 5 years, and this is one of the most systematic cases I've seen. The premeditation, the drugging, using their own daughter as an unwitting accomplice." "Will you run the story?" "With your permission, I'll do more than that. I want to make this a series. The financial exploitation, the forgery, the assault, but also the system that makes this possible. How many elderly people don't have an Olivia Marks or an Emily to help them?" By noon, Detective Morrison had assembled a task force. The county's elder abuse unit, the DA's office, even a federal investigator interested in the veterans' benefits fraud angle. Our motel room had become an impromptu war room. "We'll need to move fast once the story breaks," Morrison explained. "They'll either run or try to destroy evidence. We need search warrants for the house, their offices, all electronic devices." "I can help with that," Emily said. She'd been quiet all morning, but now she looked determined. "Dad keeps backup drives in his office safe. The combination is my birthday. He's predictable like that. And Mom has a second laptop at her real estate office where she does her private work." Morrison raised an eyebrow. "Emily, you understand that helping us means testifying against your parents?" "They stopped being my parents when they started poisoning my grandmother," Emily said flatly. "Real parents don't use their children as props in criminal schemes." That afternoon, Olivia filed papers with the court, not just criminal complaints, but civil actions, fraud, intentional infliction of emotional distress, breach of fiduciary duty. She also filed for an emergency protection order and temporary custody of Emily. "The custody hearing will be expedited," she explained. "Given the evidence of psychological abuse and their involvement of a minor in criminal activity, no judge will leave Emily in that house." The next morning, Marcus's first article hit the front page of the Millstone County Register. Local woman 70 alleges systematic abuse by son and daughter-in-law, drugging, assault, and financial fraud exposed. My phone started ringing by 7 a.m. Neighbors, friends from church, fellow veterans' wives, all shocked, all supportive, but the most important call came from Adult Protective Services. "Mrs. Hale, We're opening an immediate investigation. The caseworker said, "We're also reviewing all properties Claire Hutchinson has sold to elderly clients in the past 3 years. Your case may have exposed a larger pattern." By noon, the story had been picked up by the state wire services. Elder abuse case reveals disturbing pattern of family exploitation, ran in the capital city's paper. The reporter had done additional digging. Claire had a history of targeting elderly clients, becoming helpful with their paperwork, suggesting powers of attorney for convenience. "She was building up to this," Olivia said as we read. "You were going to be her big score, the proof of concept for a larger operation." Daniel called my phone 17 times. I didn't answer. Claire sent texts alternating between threats and pleading. I saved them all for evidence. But the real fireworks started when the blogger Olivia had mentioned, not Rebecca Chen, but Sarah Williams, picked up the story, her post. The daughter-in-law from hell, how one woman's greed exposed a national crisis, went viral within hours. The comments section exploded with similar stories. Elderly parents pressured to sign over homes, mysterious illnesses after adult children moved in, savings accounts drained, medications tampered with. My story had opened a floodgate. "Mrs. Hale," Marcus called that evening, excitement in his voice. "I've had 12 people contact me with similar stories just today. 3 of them involved Claire Hutchinson's real estate firm. This is huge. We might be looking at an organized ring." Emily, who'd been doing homework at the motel's tiny desk, looked up. Mom's best friend Linda works at Sunshine Gardens, the place they wanted to put Grandma. She's always joking about how quickly rooms open up there. Detective Morrison, who'd stopped by with updates, went very still. "Emily, has Linda ever said anything specific about residents dying?" "Just jokes, like how some families get impatient and Linda knows how to help things along." Mom always laughed. Morrison was on her phone immediately, calling for a wider investigation, Sunshine Gardens mortality rates, Claire's connection to the facility, financial records of families whose elderly relatives died there. Suddenly, my case was part of something much larger. That night, Olivia sat with me as I processed everything. "You've done more than save yourself. Margaret, you've potentially saved dozens of others." "I just wanted to keep my house," and I said, exhausted. "I never imagined—" "Evil rarely imagines being exposed," she replied. "They counted on your silence, your shame, your isolation. Instead, you fought back, and Emily, that girl's courage matches yours." Emily looked up from her homework. "Grandma taught me that. Not in words, but in how she lived. All those stories about being a nurse in Vietnam, saving lives under fire. I knew if she could do that, I could save her." I pulled my granddaughter close, this brave child who'd risked everything to protect me. We saved each other. The next morning brought a development none of us expected. The FBI arrived. "Mrs. Hale," Agent Patricia Reeves introduced herself. "The Veterans Benefits fraud triggered federal interest, but what we're finding goes deeper. Interstate fraud, possible murder for hire, a network targeting elderly veterans and their spouses across 3 states. Your son and daughter-in-law, they're just one cell." She showed us a chart, connections between Claire's real estate firm, Sunshine Gardens, a medical practice known for quick incompetency determinations, even a judge who rubber-stamped guardianship orders. "How long has this been going on?" I asked, horrified. "Years. We think, but you're the first to fight back with this much evidence. Emily's recordings, the video footage, the documented drugging, it's the break we needed." As I looked at the chart, seeing my family's betrayal as part of a massive web of exploitation, I felt something shift. This wasn't just about my house anymore. This was about justice for all the silent victims who hadn't been able to fight back. "What do you need from us?" I asked. Agent Reeves smiled grimly. "Everything. Every document, every recording, every detail. We're going to dismantle this network piece by piece, and it starts with your testimony." I thought of Daniel laughing as I bled on my kitchen floor, of Claire's casual cruelty, of all the elderly people who'd suffered in silence. You'll have it, I promised. Every word. The arrests happened at 6 a.m. on a Thursday. Exactly 1 week after I'd fled my home, federal agents and local police moved simultaneously. Daniel at his office, Claire at the real estate firm, and 4 others connected to their network. I watched the footage later on the news. My son in handcuffs, his face a mask of shock and indignation. But they had one card left to play. Mom's clearly having a breakdown, Daniel told reporters as they led him away. She's been showing signs of dementia for months. This is all a terrible misunderstanding caused by her confusion. Claire was smoother, playing the concerned daughter-in-law. We're heartbroken. We've only ever tried to help Margaret. She's been paranoid lately, making wild accusations. We were trying to get her proper care. They'd coordinated their stories perfectly. Within hours, their lawyer, an oily man named Preston Watts, was on every local news channel, painting a picture of a confused elderly woman being manipulated by opportunistic outsiders, meaning Olivia, into making false accusations against her loving family. Time for the nuclear option, Olivia said, watching the coverage with disgust. That Saturday, they held a family unity barbecue at my house, inviting neighbors and friends to show how normal everything was. They'd been released on bail and were determined to control the narrative. We need to be there, I said. Margaret, no. You have a protection order, which allows me to retrieve personal belongings with police escort. I finished. But that's not what I have in mind. Emily, remember what you said about the smart clock? My granddaughter's eyes lit up with understanding. It live streams. If you connect to it, we can broadcast everything they say and do directly to anyone watching. Olivia made the calls. Sarah Williams, the blogger, was particularly interested. Within 2 hours, she'd set up a live stream link, ready to broadcast whatever the camera captured. Marcus Thompson alerted his media contacts. Detective Morrison arranged for plainclothes officers to be nearby. At 2 p.m., as Daniel and Claire entertained guests in my backyard, I arrived with Olivia and Emily. The police escort waited by the curb as we approached the front door. The party sounds died as we entered. 30 people, neighbors I'd known for decades, Daniel's co-workers, Claire's real estate colleagues, all stared as I walked into my own living room. Mother, Daniel said, forcing a smile, how nice of you to come home. Everyone's been worried about you. Have they? I asked calmly. How thoughtful. Claire stepped forward, playing the perfect hostess. Margaret, you look tired. Why don't you sit down? I'll make you some tea. No, thank you, I said. I've had enough of your tea. A few guests shifted uncomfortably. Claire's smile tightened. Mom, Daniel said, louder now, performing for the crowd. I know you've been confused lately. The dementia? I don't have dementia, Daniel. I pulled out my phone, showing the medical report. 3 independent doctors confirmed it this week. My mind is perfectly clear, unlike my tea, which your wife has been drugging for 6 months. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Claire laughed, but it sounded forced. That's ridiculous. Margaret, these delusions are documented on video, Emily interrupted, stepping out from behind me. Hi, Mom, Dad, forgot about the kitchen camera, didn't you? The color drained from Claire's face. Emily, sweetheart, you don't understand? I understand everything. Emily's voice was steady, adult beyond her years. I understand you've been poisoning Grandma. I understand you practiced forging her signature. I understand you were planning to put her in a place where your friend Linda could help things along when you got impatient. The backyard had gone silent. Guests were pulling out phones, some recording, others checking Sarah Williams' blog where the smart clock's live stream was broadcasting everything. You ungrateful little brat, Claire hissed, mask finally slipping. After everything we've done for you, like telling me I was paranoid, like taking me to therapy to establish I was an unreliable witness? Emily pulled out her phone. I have recordings. Mom, months of them, including the one where you told Dad that I was insurance in case Grandma fought back, a troubled teen whose word meant nothing. Daniel stepped toward his daughter, face twisting with rage. You little... "Touch her and I'll break your arm," I said quietly. Everyone turned to stare at me. The feeble old woman they'd expected was gone. In her place stood Margaret Hale, combat nurse, survivor, protector. "You want to know something, son? All those years you thought I was weak, submissive, easy to manipulate? I was choosing to be gentle, choosing to keep the peace, but you mistook kindness for weakness." I turned to address the crowd, many of whom were now openly recording. "My name is Margaret Hale. Last week, my daughter-in-law assaulted me with a wine bottle while my son watched and laughed. They've been drugging me, forging my signature, planning to steal my home and possibly have me killed in a corrupt nursing facility. I have proof of everything." "She's lying," Claire shrieked. "This is all lies. Dan, do something." But Daniel was staring at the phones pointed at him. Realizing the trap they'd walked into, the live stream had over 10,000 viewers. Comments were pouring in, support for me, horror at them, demands for justice. "The FBI has everything," I continued calmly. "The forged documents, the drugging evidence, Emily's recordings, your connections to Sunshine Gardens and the deaths there. Oh yes, they're investigating those now. How many elderly people died conveniently after their homes were transferred? How many families got rich while their parents vanished into that place?" "You can't prove anything," Daniel said, but his voice shook. "I don't have to," I replied. "Emily already did. She's been collecting evidence for months, protecting me when you thought she was just a broken child you could use as a prop. You forgot something important. Daniel, she's a Hale. We protect our own." Claire lunged at Emily then, screaming incoherently, but Emily sidestepped. I'd taught her that move years ago. A simple defensive technique from my army days. Claire stumbled, fell, and suddenly everyone could see the real woman behind the perfect suburban mask. "Get out of my house," I said quietly. "Both of you. You have 1 hour to pack your personal belongings. The police outside will supervise. And Daniel, that prenup you signed with Claire? The one that says assets acquired through fraud revert to the injured party? Your lawyer should have read it more carefully." Claire's face went white. She'd been so focused on stealing from me. She'd never considered I might take everything from her instead. As they slunk away to pack, neighbors approached me one by one. Apologies, support, admissions that they'd suspected something was wrong but hadn't known how to help. The livestream comments exploded with similar stories, creating a digital avalanche of shared experiences. "My Mrs. Hale," one elderly neighbor whispered, "my daughter's been pushing me to sign papers too. After seeing this, I think I need a lawyer." "Call Olivia," I said, squeezing her hand. "She'll help." As the crowd dispersed and police supervised Daniel and Claire's departure, I stood in my living room, truly mine again. Emily beside me, Olivia on my other side, both anchors in the storm. "You know they'll try to spin this at trial," Olivia warned. "Preston Watts is already calling it elder exploitation by you against them." I smiled, thinking of the mountain of evidence, the federal investigation, the network of elderly victims now coming forward. "Let them try," I said. "They wanted a war. Now they've got one." Emily hugged me tightly. "I'm proud of you, Grandma." "I'm proud of us," I corrected. "We did this together." As the sun set over my house, I thought about all the battles still to come, the trial, the media circus, the complete destruction of my relationship with my son. But I also thought about Emily, brave beyond her years, about the elderly people who would be saved because we spoke up, about the criminal network crumbling because one old woman refused to go quietly. They'd tried to break me. Instead, they'd awakened something far more dangerous, a grandmother with nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. The war was just beginning. The collapse happened faster than anyone expected. Within 48 hours of the live-streamed confrontation, Daniel's investment firm suspended him pending investigation. Clients demanded answers about whether he'd been forging their signatures too. 3 major accounts pulled out immediately. triggering a cascade that would eventually destroy the company he'd spent 15 years building. Claire's real estate license was suspended by Monday morning. The state board had received 17 complaints from elderly clients who'd suddenly realized their helpful agent might have been helping herself to more than just commissions. Her face was poison in Millstone County. The video of her lunging at Emily had been viewed over 2 million times. But they weren't going down without a fight. The threatening messages started Tuesday night, not from Daniel or Claire directly. They weren't that stupid, but from anonymous numbers. Accidents happen to old ladies. Nice granddaughter you have there. Fire spreads fast in old houses. They're getting desperate, Detective Morrison said, reviewing the messages. This is good, actually. Desperate people make mistakes. She was right. By Thursday, Claire had made a fatal error. She'd contacted Linda at Sunshine Gardens, trying to destroy evidence of their arrangement. But Linda, facing her own federal investigation, was wearing a wire. "I need you to get rid of everything," Claire's recorded voice said. "The payments, the referral agreements, especially anything about the acceleration protocols." "Acceleration protocols?" Linda had asked, playing dumb for the recording. "You know what I mean. The extra medications for difficult residents, the ones who were taking too long to transition." That recording sealed it. What had started as fraud and elder abuse was now conspiracy to commit murder. The FBI raided Sunshine Gardens that night, seizing records that would eventually link 12 suspicious deaths to the acceleration protocols. Daniel cracked first. His lawyer called Olivia Monday morning, wanting to make a deal. He'll testify against Claire and the Sunshine Gardens network. Preston Watts offered, in exchange for reduced charges. "No deal," I said firmly. "He watched her assault me and laughed. He drugged me. He planned to throw me away like garbage. He faces the same consequences as her." But Daniel had one more card to play: emotional manipulation. The letter arrived Tuesday afternoon, delivered by his lawyer. I recognized his handwriting, the same careful script I'd helped him perfect in 3rd grade. "Mom," it began, "I know you hate me right now. I don't blame you, but you have to understand. Claire manipulated me. She preyed on my weaknesses, convinced me you were becoming a burden. I see now how wrong I was. I'm still your son, the boy you raised. Please don't let them destroy our family. I love you." Emily read it over my shoulder. "He's lying, Grandma." "I know, sweetheart." "Then why are you crying?" I wiped my eyes, because somewhere in that manipulative, cruel man is the ghost of the little boy who used to fall asleep in my arms. I'm mourning him, not the monster he became. The media attention intensified. National news picked up the story. The grandmother who fought back became a rallying cry for elder rights activists. My mailbox filled with letters from other elderly people sharing their stories, thanking me for my courage. But the one that mattered most came from a name I didn't recognize: Patricia Winters from Arizona. "Mrs. Hale," she wrote, "I don't know if you remember me. I was Patricia Gomez when we served together in Da Nang. You saved my life in '68 when our field hospital was hit. I've followed your story, and I want you to know you're still saving lives. My son was pressuring me to sign over my house. After seeing what you did, I got a lawyer instead. Thank you for being brave again." I remembered her, a young nurse, terrified but determined, holding pressure on wounds while mortars fell around us. Now we were both old women, fighting different battles, but with the same courage. Claire's family tried to intervene next. Her parents, wealthy retirees from Florida, flew in Thursday. They held a press conference outside the courthouse, claiming I was a vindictive old woman destroying their daughter's life over a misunderstanding. It backfired spectacularly when Sarah Williams published the full police report, including photos of my injuries and the blood-stained kitchen floor. The court of public opinion delivered its verdict swiftly. By Friday, the prosecutor announced the full charges: elder abuse, assault with a deadly weapon, fraud, forgery, conspiracy to commit murder, and 37 additional counts related to the Sunshine Gardens deaths. Both Daniel and Claire were facing potential life sentences. "Ma'am," Agent Reeves called that afternoon, "we've frozen all their assets. The house deed is clear. It's yours. Free and clean. We've also identified 43 elderly victims across 3 states. Your case broke this wide open." That evening, Emily and I sat in my kitchen, our kitchen now. Since the court had granted me full custody, she was doing homework while I made dinner, a simple routine that felt like victory. "I'm going to change my last name," she said suddenly. "I don't want to be Emily Hutchinson anymore." "You could be Emily Hale," I offered, "if you'd like." She smiled, the first real smile I'd seen from her in years. Emily Margaret Hale, after the 2 strongest women I know. My phone buzzed with a text. Daniel again, this time from the federal holding facility. "How can you do this to your own son?" I typed back, "The same way you did it to your own mother." Then I blocked the number. Claire's parents posted bail Friday night, putting up their retirement savings within hours. She'd violated the protection order by driving past my house. The security camera caught her clearly, and she was back in custody by midnight. Bail revoked. Saturday brought an unexpected visitor, Judge Patricia Hartley, who would be presiding over the family court matters. "Mrs. Hale," she said, sitting in my living room, "I've reviewed Emily's custody case, given the evidence of psychological abuse and the parents' criminal charges. I'm prepared to grant you permanent guardianship, but I need to know, are you prepared for this? Raising a teenager at your age?" I looked at Emily, who was pretending to read but clearly listening. "Your Honor, I raised 1 child successfully. He may have lost his way as an adult, but Emily's already shown more character at 13 than he has at 45. We take care of each other." "Then I'll expedite the order. Emily deserves stability after everything she's endured." As the judge left, Emily hugged me tightly. "We're really family now?" "We always were," I said. "Papers just make it official." That night, I stood in my kitchen, no blood on the floor, no broken glass, no cruel laughter, just peaceful silence and the knowledge that I'd won more than just my house back. I'd saved my granddaughter, exposed a criminal network, and shown that 70 years of life had given me strength, not weakness. The trials would come, the media attention would continue, Daniel and Claire would face justice for their crimes. But tonight, in my home, with my granddaughter safe beside me, I allowed myself 1 moment of pure satisfaction. They'd tried to erase me. Instead, I'd erase them from my life completely, and in the ruins of their scheme, Emily and I would build something better, a real family, based on love and trust instead of greed and manipulation. The woman who'd lain bleeding on this floor 2 weeks ago might have been broken, but she'd gotten up, and Margaret Hale didn't stay down for anyone. The federal courthouse in downtown Millstone stood like a fortress of justice that morning. 6 months had passed since that bloody night in my kitchen, and now the final reckoning had come. I adjusted Emily's collar as we waited outside the courtroom, her young face determined but pale. "Remember," I told her, "you tell the truth and nothing else. Don't let their lawyers twist your words." "I won't. Grandma, we've come too far to fail now." The courtroom was packed. Media, elderly advocates, victims from across 3 states who'd found their voice because of our case. Daniel and Claire sat at separate defense tables. Their marriage hadn't survived the weight of mutual betrayal when each tried to testify against the other. Daniel looked gaunt, his expensive suit hanging loose. Prison had aged him 20 years in 6 months. When our eyes met, I saw a flicker of the boy he'd been, immediately smothered by the bitter man he'd become. Claire kept her gaze fixed ahead, her perfect suburban facade cracked beyond repair. The prosecutor, Janet Morrison, laid out the case methodically. Financial fraud spanning 2 years, systematic drugging designed to simulate dementia, physical assault with intent to cause serious harm, and most damning, conspiracy with Sunshine Gardens to hasten the deaths of 12 elderly residents whose families had grown impatient. When they played the kitchen camera footage, several jury members visibly recoiled. The sound of Claire's wine bottle connecting with my jaw echoed through the silent courtroom. But worse was Daniel's laughter, cold, cruel, utterly devoid of human compassion for his own mother. Emily testified with a composure that belied her 14 years. She detailed the months of psychological abuse, the gaslighting, being used as an unwitting accomplice to their crimes. When Claire's lawyer suggested she was lying to inherit from me, Emily's response was devastating in its simplicity. I already lost my parents the night they decided my grandmother's life was worth less than her house. I'm not lying to gain anything. I'm telling the truth to stop them from hurting anyone else. The defense tried everything. They painted me as vindictive, confused, manipulated by Olivia. They suggested Emily had been coached. They even brought in a psychologist to claim Daniel had been under Claire's influence, not responsible for his actions. It all crumbled when Linda from Sunshine Gardens took the stand, offered immunity for her testimony. She detailed the entire network, how families paid bonuses for quick transitions, how medications were adjusted to hasten deaths, how Claire had referred 6 elderly clients who'd all died within months of admission. Mrs. Hutchinson was our best referral source, Linda testified, her voice hollow. She'd identify lonely seniors with valuable properties and no close family oversight. We called them golden geese. The faster they died, the bigger our cut of the estate. The jury deliberated for only 3 hours. On the count of conspiracy to commit murder in the first degree, we find the defendant Claire Hutchinson guilty. On the count of elder abuse with special circumstances, we find the defendant Daniel Hale guilty. The verdicts continued, guilty on all counts for both of them. Claire collapsed, finally showing genuine emotion as the reality of life in prison sank in. Daniel just stared at me, his eyes empty of everything but rage. Judge Patricia Hartley's voice was steel when she delivered the sentences. This court has seen many cases of elder abuse, but rarely one so calculated, so cruel, so utterly devoid of human decency. Mr. Hale, you betrayed the most fundamental trust between parent and child, Mrs. Hutchinson. You orchestrated a conspiracy that treated our elderly citizens as nothing more than obstacles to wealth. Life without parole for Claire on the murder conspiracy charges. 40 years for Daniel with possibility of parole after 25. The courtroom erupted. Cheers from victims' families, sobbing from Claire's parents, and Daniel's single, broken word. Mom? I didn't turn around. He'd lost the right to call me that the night he laughed at my blood. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed, but I only had eyes for the group of elderly men and women who'd traveled from across the country. Patricia Winters was there, my old Army colleague, along with dozens of others who'd found strength in our story to fight their own battles. You gave us our voices back, one woman said, tears streaming. My daughter returned my bank accounts last month. She was terrified of ending up like them. As Emily and I walked to our car, I saw them loading Daniel and Claire into separate prison transports. Claire screamed something I couldn't hear. Daniel had gone catatonic, finally understanding that his greed had cost him everything: his freedom, his family, his future. Do you regret it? Emily asked as we drove home. He's still your son. He stopped being my son the moment he chose money over my life. I said, I regret what he became, not what I did to stop him. That evening, we held a celebration at my house, our house. Olivia was there, along with Detective Morrison, Agent Reeves, Marcus Thompson, and Sarah Williams. Even Judge Hartley stopped by briefly, but the most important guest was Emily's friend Maya, whose mother had sheltered Emily that crucial night. You've started something, Marcus told me. Elder abuse prosecutions are up 400% nationally since your case. Families are having real conversations about aging and care. Nursing homes are under scrutiny. You changed the game, Margaret. As the evening wound down, Emily and I cleaned up together, a routine we'd developed over the months. She washed. I dried. Teamwork and everything now. I've been accepted to the summer pre-law program at State. She told me, full scholarship. They were impressed by my victim impact statement and want me to speak about elder law reform. Following in Olivia's footsteps? "Following in yours," she corrected, "fighting for people who can't fight for themselves." I pulled her close. This remarkable young woman who'd risen from the ashes of her parents' cruelty. Your parents gave you one gift. Even if they didn't mean to, they showed you exactly who not to become. Later, I stood in my kitchen one last time, running my hand over the spot where I'd fallen. No trace remained of that night's violence, just clean tiles and peaceful shadows. Through the window, I could see neighbors' lights, the community that had rallied around us, the world that had watched our story unfold. They'd meant to bury me in this house. Instead, I'd planted seeds of justice that would grow long after I was gone. Emily would water them, tend them, make them flourish. The cycle of abuse had been broken, replaced by something stronger, love without conditions, family by choice, and the iron-hard truth that some battles are worth fighting no matter the cost. Claire and Daniel had thought they were inheriting a house. Instead, they'd inherited exactly what they'd earned, cold cells and lifetime regrets. And Emily and I? We'd inherited each other, and that was worth more than any property could ever be. The house was quiet now, but it wasn't empty. It was full of promise, of second chances, of a granddaughter's laughter replacing a son's cruelty. I'd won more than a legal victory. I'd won the right to live my remaining years surrounded by love instead of greed, respect instead of resentment. And somewhere in federal prison, two people were learning what I'd always known, that a house was just walls and roof. A home was the people who'd stand by you when the world tried to tear you down. They'd tried to steal my house, but they'd never understood it was already Emily's home. And now, it always would be. The war was over. We'd won. And tomorrow, Emily and I would wake up in our peaceful house and continue building the life they'd tried to destroy. One day, one victory, one act of love at a time. Thank you so much for listening to Margaret's story. If you're watching this, please comment below and let me know where you're listening from. I'd love to connect with all of you. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts about elder abuse and family betrayal. Have you or someone you know experienced something similar? Let's discuss in the comments.